Hey everybody, just got back from the second stop on the MLF Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit at Smith Lake. Had a good week this week. Ended up finishing 39th. Um, Never been to Smith. Smith is in northern Alabama. It's a deep, clear, rocky lake. I think this is the fourth time I've been there. Got some big spotted bass in it. It's got some nice largemouth too. Um, and I really enjoy going there, and this is my, I think, like I say, fourth time I've been there, and this the fourth check I've made since I've been there. So the lake's really been nice to me over the years, so I definitely enjoy going there. Um, so like I said in the last video, this year they've cut us down to 2 practice days, and even though Smith Lake isn't the biggest lake, it fishes really big because there's 3 different arms you can go up in, and it's pretty narrow, and just a lot of docks, a lot of rocks, just lots of cover. So you can spend a lot of time in one little area and not get to see the entire lake at all. So um, the first day of practice, I stayed up in the Ryan Creek arm. That's actually where we went out of, way up in the Ryan Creek arm. I have a little history up there. So I stayed up there the first practice day, and I think it took all day, but I think I finally caught 5 or 6 keepers the first day. Nothing great, 10 pounds. Um, so I thought, well, that's a decent start, but then I've also had some pretty good finishes up a couple of the other branches. So on day 2, I put in at the dam, and I worked my way up into Rock Creek and then up into the river. And I really struggled on day 2. I think I only had 1 keeper. It was just tough fishing. I mean, I caught a lot of fish. This year, used to the limit was 12 inches on spotted bass there for our tournaments, and this year they moved it to 15 inches, which kind of threw a little curveball in there. But typically, you're always going to have to catch, bigger than 15 inches anyway if you want to do well in the tournament. So, that really wasn't that big of a deal. But like I say, only caught 1 keeper on day 2 of practice. So that pretty much made up my mind that I was going to, stay up in Ryan Creek, within probably 5 miles of where we launched, and that's where I was going to fish the tournament. Just wanted to maximize my time because I knew they weren't biting real great. And just maximize my time, keep my bait wet, and just cover quite a bit of water. Really, I mean, in the tournament I had multiple rods on my deck, obviously, but I really had kind of a 1-2 punch this week. The first was a Keitech 3.8 on a 3/8 ounce bite me tackle ball head. This is just kind of a go-to lure in the springtime, especially spotted bass. Just a great lure. And I pretty much cut all my weight on day 1 on the Keitech. Now on day 2, it was all about the jerk bait. The sun kind of came out a little bit, and I was throwing a Megabass 110 +1, an Elegy bone. That's kind of about the only color I throw in a jerk bait anymore. And I caught most of my fish on the jerk bait on day 2. Going back to day 1, I had 12 pounds and change, and I was sitting in 27th. I got 2 good bites on day 1. Both were probably a little over 3 pounds. Day 2 on the jerk bait, I just never got a good bite. I weighed in 9 pounds and I think 12 or 13 ounces on day 2. So, and I kind of dropped from 27th to 31st. So I made the cut. Going into day 3, they take the top 50. And I had a couple things going through my head for day 3. Because looking at how some of the other guys were finishing, some guys had a really big bag the first day and then considerably dropped off on day 2, but they still made the cut off that day 1 bag. So I thought, man, if I can go out and catch another 10, 11, 12 pounds, maybe I'll move from 31st, up to 20th, or maybe even a little bit better. Or, do I roll the dice, put a big swim bait on my deck, and just go fishing? So I decided to go with option two, or excuse me, option one is just go try to catch another 10, 11, 12 pounds and move up. I just thought, after my debacle at Okeechobee, finished down there, I really need the points to try to make up. So anyways, I went back out and I did fish some new water. I ran some of the same water that I had been fishing. I only got 3 keeper bites, and that's pretty much that. It was really difficult this week because what I was fishing is I was fishing steeper banks, whether it be a bluff bank or just kind of a stair step down bank. I really wasn't going back in the pockets. I was just kind of staying out on the kind of the main deal, and I just never knew where my next bite was coming from. Because I may run down a stretch one day and not get a bite. I may run down it the next day and catch one. So I really didn't have a go-to spot that I could go catch one. I just I did a lot of fishing and not a lot of running around on days 1 and 2. Now on day 3, I probably moved around a little too much. I probably just should have fished more than running back and forth in between spots. But at that point, I was trying to make something happen later in the day, and that's just kind of what happened. But anyway, probably the highlight of day 3, I actually just earlier today I uploaded my YouTube video, so be sure to check out the fish catches. But probably 3/4 of the way through the video, I throw my swim bait out there on day 3. I'm going down kind of a bluffy bank, and there's a bushy laydown, and so I throw my swim bait out there and I'm slow reeling it back, and I get hung up in the tree, and I was like, gosh dang it, so I'm kind of shaking it won't come off, and as I start trolling up to the tree, you see me look down, and I'm looking at my live scope, and literally I can see 3 or 4 or 5 fish sitting in that tree, and of course I was like, golly, just if I just cast maybe just a little bit over to left a little more to miss that tree, I probably would have caught one of those. And so I get up to the tree, and I'm just about to ready to stick my rod in the water, and it goes donk, and like a 2 1/4 pound fish ate my swim bait off the tree, and I was able to get him in as my best fish of the day. So that's kind of exciting. So be sure to go back in my fish catch video and check that part out. Congratulations to John Cox. I mean, what a win. I don't think he burned more than 4 or 5 gallons the entire tournament. He's just fantastic fisherman. So other than that, a pretty short video this time. But like I say, kept it simple. Do what I like to do. I love throwing a swim bait in the spring. I love throwing a jerk bait in the spring. So that was kind of my 1-2 punch this week. I was throwing the swim bait on a Denali swim bait rod with 10-pound line, and I did have it rigged up in a bait caster and a spinning reel. And the reason I do that sometimes is, like on the bluff walls, I use the bait caster, but because I'm not necessarily on the bluff wall, you're not reeling it on bottom. You're just kind of letting it sink, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet, and then just slow reeling it back. And there's, there'll be shelves on those bluff walls where those spotted bass hang. Now, I did have one other spot kind of in the back end of a creek. It just kind of a gravel bar, and in that situation, I wanted the swim bait on the bottom. So a lot of times when I want to keep it on the bottom, I'll use a spinning reel. It's just a slower gear ratio, and it's just easier to keep that bait bouncing on the bottom with a spinning reel. Now the jerk bait, I was throwing it on an older Denali jerk bait rod. I actually don't make it anymore, but it's probably one of my favorite rods that they've ever made. And I was throwing it on 10-pound braid with a 10-pound leader. I also throw it on a spinning reel most of the time, just for fact, especially with, anytime you go to a spotted bass or a smallmouth fishery, a lot of times, especially those two fish will follow the bait almost to the boat before they hit, and you really want a good drag system, for when they eat it right at the boat. I did have one other rod, a bait caster, set up with the same bait, just to throw around docks, or sometimes when you need to make an accurate cast, it's just easier to do that with a bait caster versus a spinning reel. So other than that, like I say, it was a good week on Smith Lake, and and now we have a little bit of a break before our next event. It's the third week in April at Lake Murray in South Carolina. I've never been there. It should be a tail end of the spawn, but mostly probably into the post spawn by the time we get there. So the fishing should be pretty good. I'm looking forward to getting down there. So anyway, thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, drop a question below and I'll try to respond. Thanks.